Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to This Is My Moment podcast. And here at This Is My Moment, man, we have a good time. We love laughing. We love life. We're going to go get it every time.
There ain't no stopping it. This is my moment. Join the movement. We bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better.
So today, I got a young man with me that has a phenomenal story, and I'm trying to do it some justice. I got some good questions, but I know you're going to make me look real good. Introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Doug Noll. I'm a lawyer turned peacemaker. Probably never heard of that before.
Yeah,
That's because as far as I know, I'm one of the few in the world that do that kind of work.
Yeah.
So background-wise, I grew up in Southern California with
Okay.
a lot of disabilities, managed to overcome them with a lot of difficulty and challenge. Went to Dartmouth College, came back to California, went to law school.
Yeah.
I was a hardcore trial lawyer for 22 years and got sick of it. And in mid-career, went back to school and earned my master's degree in peacemaking and conflict studies.
Okay.
And in 2000, I walked away. I gave 1 week's notice and walked away from a $10 million a year law, or a $10 million law practice. Just walked away cold.
Ooh.
And opened up my own practice as a peacemaker. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And I've done some pretty amazing stuff in the last 22 years.
Oh, yeah. I want to touch on some of it.
Yeah.
I want to touch on some of it. But before we even get into my questions, $10 million and you walk?
I walked.
Ooh, you talking about taking a chance on yourself.
It was the best decision I ever made.
I dig that, brother. I dig. Sometimes you got to bet on yourself, man.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't make anywhere near that kind of money today, but my life is so happy. Yeah. I've helped more people in a week doing what I do today than I helped in 22 years as a trial lawyer.
That's solid.
And that's the payoff. It's not about money.
Yeah.
I had the big house and the big car and the fancy this and the fancy that. That's all bullshit.
Right.
It really is. I mean, there's not a billionaire on the planet that's happy.
Yeah.
They're all miserable. So they can have their money in their misery, and I'll have my comfortable life being blissfully happy.
I dig that, brother. I dig that. And you know what? It's something about waking up in the morning and feeling good.
That's right.
Let me ask you this. And you touched on a little bit in your opening, man, your disabilities, man. I was reading. There was a lot of them, man. What did you do to overcome? The disabilities, man? What got you going?
Stubborn.
Man, that is.
I was blessed with parents who, on the one hand, they couldn't give me the emotional support I wanted, so I was pretty emotionally wounded for a long time. But they did give me a lot of other support, and I grew up in Southern California, and we got into I was the oldest of four boys, and we all got into Boy scouting.
Okay.
And that got us into the mountains, backpacking and fishing and climbing and outdoor stuff. And so it was painful, but I loved it. And I just kept pushing through it and pushing through it and pushing through it and pushing through it. And, my eyesight, I was doing poorly in school. And then in the fourth grade, some bright nurse had the idea to test my eyes. And they found out that I was 2400, blind. Yeah. They give me the big Coke lens glasses with the black rims back in the 50s when that was just a buzzkill for the girls. and I could read. And I went, I could see. And so like in one summer, I jumped 3 grade levels or something like that. I mean, my learning accelerated because finally all of a sudden I could figure out what I was doing. And so, but the problem was by then I was, I covered up all my emotional hurt with arrogance and I was super smart. And now I'm looking like a nerd. And, I was, an athlete in high school, but I played water polo and swam and, those were buzzkills too. So I didn't have much of a social life. But I just slowly overcame it. And it's taken decades. I mean, I'm 72. I've overcome most everything now. And I've done a lot of really cool stuff because of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw some, man. We're going to talk about them later. Yeah, I'll tell you, hey, you laugh, man, but I was reading all the things, and I'm going to bring them up later, so I'm not going to touch on them right now. But I was reading some of the stuff, man. I was like, how? And I was like, when I talked to him,
I'll give you the secret.
Well,
I haven't owned a television set in 40 years.
what?
I don't watch television. I don't listen to the radio.
What?
If you get rid of the television and get rid of radio, all of a sudden you've got all this time.
Yeah.
And you can do some pretty amazing things when you got that time.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone that said they ain't got a TV, man.
Well, okay, I'm the first, but I'll be the first for a lot of things you've probably never heard before.
Yeah. And one of them is the very next question. Not this one. I got something for you though. What keeps you motivated? You know what I mean? Like, minus the TV, minus your disabilities, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Well, today, what keeps me going is service to humanity.
Oh yeah.
I love serving people. And I get to serve people in so many different ways, in so many different levels.
Yeah.
It's just really exciting to me to be able to help people. Like earlier today, I was on a long call, hour and a half call.
Yeah.
We can talk about this too, with an adult daughter estranged from her parents.
Okay.
And it was our second conversation. What I'm doing is I'm facilitating difficult conversations between people.
Right.
And I'll give you the webpage later. But so if anybody has a difficult conversation, and everybody has a difficult conversation they're avoiding.
Of course.
I'm doing this for free. And this was the second conversation that we had. And we went deep and found out about the abuses sexually that both the daughter and the mother had suffered. The daughter in college, the mother when she was a child. And it was the first time in their lives that they'd ever talked about this. And it started clearing the air between the two of them.
Yeah.
And just do that work, just helping people reconcile.
Yes.
Working, or my prison work, going into prisons and training lifers how to be peacemakers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that too, because I read that was real interesting.
Every day is a day of service. It's amazing.
That's heavy. And I talk about having the difficult conversation with yourself, right?
That too.
I tell people all the time, and this is not a secret, man. Like, you can lie to anybody. You can lie to anybody.
Right.
But lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to look in that mirror, brother. You got to look in that mirror.
And it's hard. It's scary.
And now you're facilitating that conversation, because a lot of times, and I've been a victim of it, like you think it'll just go away, or you think that time will heal the wound, and you still have that animosity. I had it, and this is just a story about me personally, that I had to have that conversation. And my dad, I didn't tell my dad I loved him for 20 years. I was upset. And one day, you know, as I got older and I got a family of my own, you know, and I was like, you know what, I actually loved the guy, but I just never told him I loved him because of some of the things that had happened growing up.
That's right.
And one day we were talking, we both grown up using my pops. And I'm about 35 years old at this time. And this been like since I was 11, I never told him that I loved him. So 24 years later, I've never told this guy that I loved him. And we're talking. And all of a sudden, right, we start crying, right? And we're starting to bring up some of the reasons that he did some things and some of the reasons that I took it personally. And sometimes it didn't even have nothing to do with me. I was a victim of circumstances. But once we got that conversation out the way, everything else was easier. Like, I started talking to him more, right? I love, like, every time I talk to him now, I love you, Dad. You know what I mean? And we go see him. But it was that initial conversation that we had.
That's right.
And the tears, like, man, we was in there crying.
It's deep. Well, good for you. And you were able to have the courage to do it yourself. And a lot of people don't have that courage. And that's why I'm here to help them.
Yeah.
I can have you have that. I can help people have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And they can do exactly what you experienced with your father, with somebody else that they have a relationship with, that there's something between you and the other person. And if you don't take care of it, it's going to break the relationship. Anyways. So we got into that because you asked me what turns me on every day. And that's what turns me on, serving others.
There you go. So you talked a little bit about it. You were a lawyer turned peacemaker. I'm going to tell you, I never heard that. So explain what a lawyer turned peacemaker, what it is.
Well, there are a number of us.
Okay.
Most lawyers won't call themselves that are doing. Okay, so there's a profession called mediation.
Yeah.
Where we are mediating. I am a mediator.
Okay.
And there are a number of us that mediate all kinds of different kinds of conflicts. And there are also non-lawyer mediators. Mediators are people who are called into a conflict or a dispute or a lawsuit to help the parties figure out how to solve the problem and end the conflict. And there are different kinds of mediations and different kinds of mediators.
Okay.
The legal mediators, the lawyer mediators, are mostly involved in settling lawsuits.
Right.
And I've done a lot of that. But when I went back to school, I was trained by the Mennonites, one of the traditional Protestant peace churches. I'm not a Mennonite myself, but it was a mind-blowing experience to be trained by these people. And so I do a lot of what we would call non-litigated disputes. For example, a family business conflict.
Yeah.
Or a problem over an estate where siblings or people who are beneficiaries of an estate are fighting over the estate, or a partnership dispute in a business, or a corporate dispute. These are all disputes that you can't take to a court of law because there's no remedy. But they're serious, deep conflicts that need resolution. And I have a huge set of skills. I have a toolbox that I sling over my back and walk in and help people do that work. And that's peacemaking. And what I'm really interested in doing is helping people resolve conflicts while maintaining and reconciling relationships.
Yeah,
and litigation breaks relationships. That's one of the reasons I got out. But in peacemaking, I can get a better result than anybody can get in trial or in the courtroom. And typically preserve the relationship, make the relationship even stronger.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, just over the years, right? I'm 45 years old, so you got a couple on me, but
I'm old enough to be your dad.
Ain't no lie, brother. But I'm looking at like life, and it seems like money, right? Money is one of the biggest things that people lose special people over, right? And the tough conversations, this person, they didn't have a will, but I stay here, and these kind of things, and you get accustomed to a certain style of living, right? You get sucked into not moving down because this person passed away, but now it's crazy, and you helping people get through the mud of that. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right.
Man, that's heavy. That's heavy. And I see you're an author too.
Yep.
Prison of Peace. Is that one?
That's not a book, that's a project. But as a result of Prison of Peace, I wrote my fourth book, De-Escalate. De-Escalate, how to calm an angry person
right.
9 seconds or less.
So Prison of Peace is not a book, it's a movement kind of deal.
A project, yeah. So Prison of Peace arose as a result of a letter that my dear friend, Laurel Coffer, who's a mediator in Los Angeles, a lawyer, received from a woman serving a life sentence without possibility of parole in the largest, most violent women's prison in the world.
Goodness.
And she asked if Laurel would come into the prison and teach the lifers in the prison how to become mediators to stop prison violence. Laura, as soon as Laurel got the letter, she was standing at her mailbox and called me and said, "What do you think?" And the reason she called me was because I live about an hour and 20 minutes from the prison. And we were very close friends, and she could trust me, and I'm a secondary black belt, so she knew she'd be safe with me. So she read the letter to me, and I said, "Yeah, we should do this." So fast forward 6 months, and now it's April. 9 months. It's April of 2010, and now we're in prison, and we're training 15 women, all of them are serving life or long-term sentences, how to become peacemakers.
Wow.
And that's how it started. And today we're all around the world. We're in 14 prisons in Greece. We've got 15 prisons in California, a prison in Connecticut. We've got startup. We're going to do a pilot project in Denmark. We've got startups in Nairobi in northern Italy. And we've got inquiries from all over the United States for doing this. And what's really cool is during the pandemic, we couldn't go into, we didn't want to go into the prisons, and we weren't going into prisons because COVID was so bad. But we took filmed our entire curriculum. So now it's digitized.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is we used people that we trained in prison, inmates that we trained in prison who have been released on parole. Yeah. And they were our trainers and teachers on the videos. It's really cool stuff. And it turned out gorgeous. And so now we can offer this digital curriculum to anybody in the world that wants to do prison of peace. And basically it's a year-long program.
Okay.
And we train people, we take people who are incarcerated, starting from knowing nothing about peacemaking, and we turn them into very powerful, skilled peacemakers.
Yeah.
In a year.
Goodness gracious. So how did the book come from that?
So in 2013, so we were now 3 years into the project, we had started working in our first men's prison, and the men all had done research on me and knew that I was an author. I was just finishing up my third book, Elusive Peace, and they started bugging me and say, well, why don't you write a book for us? Because we need to explain to our families what we're learning, and we can't tell them over the telephone or in visits. So would you please write a book talking about all of this? And I said, yeah. So finally, I said, yeah. I finally said yes, so I started writing the book, and the book I wrote it really fast. It took me 6 weeks to write the thing, and we sold it. My agent sold it to Simon & Schuster just before Thanksgiving in 2016.
Yeah.
To our amazement, it was the fastest turnaround Simon & Schuster has ever had on a book. They had that book out. I turned in the final manuscript right after Thanksgiving in 2016, and the book was published on September 17th, 2017, or September 19th, something like that. I mean, it was literally a 9-month turnaround. They've never done that before.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's how the book got started. And the book is all about how to calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less, which is a skill I developed in 2005.
Can you give me a little bit?
Sure. I was in the middle of a really nasty lawsuit between a divorce couple. They'd each spent over $50,000 on an $18,000 problem.
Goodness gracious.
They were so angry at each other that if there had been knives on the table, there would have been blood on the floor.
Ooh.
They were screaming vile epithets. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So my back was up against the wall. I had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the thought came to me, listen to the emotions. So I stopped them.
Yeah.
And I turned to the woman, Susan, and I said, Susan, as John is talking, what I want you to do is just listen to and reflect back what his emotional experience is.
Yeah.
And she did that with some coaching by me. And then as she started doing this, I could just watch her. She moved from being a victim to being empowered.
Yeah.
And I watched him calm down.
Yeah.
When he was done telling his story, they switched roles. She told her story. He did the same thing for her, reflected back her emotional experience. And when it was all over with, he put his face in his hands and started sobbing. I mean, really deep racking sobs.
Yeah.
And for about 3 or 4 minutes, we just sat there in silence, gave him space, then got the Kleenex, wiped himself out, blew his nose and cleaned himself up. Yeah. And he looked across the table and he said, that's the first time you've listened to me in 25 years.
Wow.
And they settled the case without my help right in front of me, and got up, held hands, and walked out and had lunch with each other.
Wow.
And 3 hours before, they would have killed each other if they could.
Wow.
And my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah, mine on the floor. I wasn't even there.
So I knew what I'd done, and I started testing it, and it worked every single time. And then in 2007, a brain scanning study came out of a UCLA laboratory that showed exactly what happens in the brain when you do this. It turns out this process is called affect, AFFECT labeling, affect labeling. And the brain scanning study shows exactly what happens in the brain when this happens. They tested it. And so now I had hard science to support why this works, and nothing else works. This works. This has hard science to show why it works, and nothing else works. So I began to teach it.
Yeah.
And more people. And then when we started the prison project, this became the first skill that we taught our inmates. And our students, and we just saw incredible results.
Yeah.
Incredible results. And to this day, we see incredible results.
That's solid, man. That is amazing. That is amazing. And listening to you, the passion that you speak on it, this is the reason why you left 10 million right here, brother.
That's
right. That's passion, that's love. And listening, to me, I always talk about a closed circle of communication. And I think communication, when the circle isn't closed, you let all that other stuff in and out. But once you close that communication and you really start listening to people, so many more things can be resolved. So many more things get put on the table, and you're not sweeping it under the rug, man. And what you're doing is commendable. And I'm gonna take a look at it once we're done to really deep dive into what you're getting at, man, because I think that it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Well, you go to that page.
Oh yeah, it's huge. When you're having your bad day, right? When you can't like get through to somebody, do you have anything that you go to, a quote, a saying, or anything of that to help motivate you? You don't have nothing like that?
I don't have bad days.
I like that.
I just don't have them.
That's it right there, brother. The best way to not need something is not have it.
I just don't have a bad day. There's no such thing as a bad day in my life. Sometimes I get frustrated, but I don't get frustrated with people. I get frustrated with my computer. I get frustrated with Facebook. I get frustrated with, that's what I get frustrated with.
Okay. I can dig that.
But I don't never get frustrated working with people.
I think I'm gonna have to change the way I'm looking at it. I don't think I'm gonna have a bad day.
I don't have a bad day.
You don't need nothing to go to. Every day is a good day. I like that. So now, at the end of every show, I like to have a good day. And my good day is to get the genuineness. I like to get the genuineness out of people. Guys, Mr. Doug, he had the questions, and he had some great answers, and I love it, and I love your story. But these next three, just like always, he don't know them. So we're going to have our little word association, phrase association game.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here we go. So I realized after looking you up, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're airplane pilot, helicopter.
Yep.
Fly fisher.
Yep.
Certified ski instructor.
Yep.
Whitewater rafter.
Yep.
Violinist.
Yep.
Sailor.
Yep.
You can only keep one. You can only be one thing. Ooh. What are you keeping?
I'd stay with the music.
You gonna stay with the music?
I'd stay with the music.
Ooh, okay. You got a lot of good stuff on here.
I know. I love it all. I'm passionate about all of that.
I dig
but
it.
I would stay with the music.
Too easy. Next one. What's the hardest to do? Active listening or having a difficult conversation?
Well, I don't like to use the term active listening.
Okay.
I prefer to use the term reflective listening.
Too easy.
And it's harder. I would say if you don't have a reflective listening skill, then having a difficult conversation is very, very hard.
Okay.
It's much easier to have a difficult conversation with reflective listening than it is to not have that skill, right. Which is why the conversations are difficult, because they're deeply emotional.
Last question.
Okay.
I tell you the phrase, this is my moment. First thing comes to your mind, this is my moment. What comes to your mind?
Oh, I'm going to go way back to 1985.
Okay.
I was 35 years old.
Okay.
And in those days, I was still a trial lawyer.
Right.
But I had been working really hard on getting my level 3 certification as a ski instructor, which is very difficult. There are not many level 3s around.
Okay.
A really tough physical exam. And I'd taken it 3 times before and failed every time. I'd never failed my technical and teaching. I'd always failed my skiing. My skiing wasn't strong enough.
Right.
On this particular day, it was the last day of the exam, and we're outside, beautiful cold spring day at Mammoth Mountain in California. And I'm clipping into my skis, and somebody runs up and says, "Hey, where's Noll?" And I raise my hand and I say, "You got a phone call, your secretary's calling." I said, "Dang, she knows better. She knows what I'm doing. You know, she knows how important this is."
Yeah.
He said, "It's really, really important." So I said, "Okay." So I run in and take the call. And she said, I know you're really busy and I would not bother you, but I just wanted to let you know that you got the judgment, you got the court order in this case that I've been working on. Okay. And you just won $7 million for your client. And I was high as a kite. And I went out and I was good. I clipped out of my skis and I said, I don't care what happens today. And everybody said, what happened? And I said, I just won the biggest lawsuit of my career so far. And everybody kind of looking at me and high-fiving me. And I said, let's go ski.
Yeah.
I could do no wrong. And I passed the exam. Man. So that was my moment.
That's it. That was a great moment too, boy. man. Mr. Doug, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was great. It was emotional. It was reflective for me, and I'm gonna change the way that I speak a little bit on some of the game that you gave me.
Do that. Listen to the emotions. Listen and reflect the emotions with the use statement. You'll be amazed at how things shift.
Hey guys, sometimes it's okay to change. Sometimes it's okay to reflect. I've been doing things a way that worked. Now I got something that may work a little bit better. And change is okay. Change is growth. We know that. And at the end of the day, you got to do what's growth and what's good for you. And then you got to go get it.
There ain't no stopping it. This is my moment. Join the movement. We bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better.